Hey guys, my name is Ruben and I scored a 750 on the GMAT with the help of Target Test Prep. And so today I'm here to just give you a short overview of how Target Test Prep helped me to achieve my score. So first a little bit about myself. I'm a Bachelor of Economics graduate from UBC in Canada, and I am now applying to Master of Finance programs in Europe. I also worked as a teaching assistant, so I can talk a little bit about the teaching and learning methods that TTP uses in order to help you do well. So, how did I hear about TTP? Well, first off, I took a cold OG exam and I scored a 690 with a quant score of 40 and a verbal score of 44. So I started off in a pretty good place. I knew my quant fundamentals were pretty good. I actually didn't end up answering 8 questions during that run, but I managed to get most of the other questions correct, and so I ended up with a score of 40. So I knew that what I want to work on was timing rather than the actual foundational knowledge. So I looked up programs on the internet like everyone does, and I stumbled across TTP after reading comments on Reddit that were praising it. And I figured, hey, if everyone is anonymously praising this course, then I might as well test it out. And so I tested it out. I really enjoyed it, and then I got my membership. And initially, I got the pay by month plan because I thought I would only be using it for 3 months. But I actually ended up moving my test a little bit back and taking 4 months in total. So, knowing that, I should have chosen the 4 month plan. But hey, here we are. So, what did TTP really help me with? So, of course, the first thing is TTP really helped me with my timing. And the way TTP did this is just by making me go through practice problem after practice problem. Every chapter you do 2 or 3 problems for each lesson, and then you do the chapter test at the end. And so TTP does a really good job of disguising how many problems you actually do. I remember after about the first month of learning, I checked on my analytics and I was surprised that I had actually done around 2,000 questions already, which as I was studying, it didn't feel like I had done 2,000 questions. So TDP does a really good job of kind of camouflaging how much work you actually do, which makes it easier to study longer and study harder. So this really helped with my timing just because I got used to answering questions in a certain time frame. Especially helpful is on when you do the chapter test. TTP gives you a clock of that shows you once you go over 2 minutes time. So that was really helpful, especially knowing how long easy questions would take me in comparison to medium questions in comparison to hard questions. Another thing that TTP really does well is building you up from easy to hard. So once you go through the lessons, you should be relatively confident in your mathematical foundations. And then you work through the easy chapter tests, then the medium chapter tests, and then the hard chapter tests. And what TTP does is while you're doing the easy chapter tests, they slowly slip in a few tricks that you should learn to be able to answer medium questions. And then once you work on the medium questions, they slip in a few more complex tricks that will help you answer hard questions. And so by tricks, I mean things that the GMAT question makers throw into questions to confuse you. Because when it comes down to it, in my opinion, the GMAT is really a test of problem solving, less so than mathematical know-how. Pretty much the mathematical knowledge you need to answer hard questions and medium questions is exactly the same. The difficulty really comes from figuring out how the question maker wants you to answer the question and what steps the question maker wants you to take to come to a conclusion. And so TTP does a really good job of teaching you the way in which GMAT question makers throw in complexities. And just being able to practice that over and over again was really helpful. And so I really ended up at a point after using TTP where once I saw a question, there would immediately, instinctively be 3 or 4 alarm bells that went off in my head that would say, check this, check this, check this. So as an example, if you're doing a simultaneous equation problem, immediately there's alarm bells that go off in my head. Are the equations the same? In which case we can't solve the system. Can x be 0? Is that a solution? Things like that. So once you get a question, there should be alarm bells going off in your head, and that really saves you a lot of time on the exam, because you can immediately go through those options, and those already help you usually eliminate 3, if not 4 answers, and it leaves you with a much simpler problem to solve afterwards. So I spent around 4 months using TTP, and it took me around 180 hours to go through all of the math section, and I got through about 80% of the verbal section. I was already confident in my verbal after getting a 44 on my cold test, so I wasn't too concerned about improving that score. My main goal was really to get my math up to the 4950 level, which I did. In fact, on the practice exams, I actually did score higher on some of my exams, and on one of the exams I did so my top scores were a Q51 and a verbal 45. So that shows you that TTP really did its job. Me losing out a couple of marks on the final exam is really just due to me getting slight test anxiety on test days. So yeah. And the last thing that I really liked about TTP was that everything was organized for me. I know that if I would have to organize my studies by myself, I'd be spending a lot more time on the topics that I enjoy, and a lot less time on the topics that I dislike. And it would also take me a considerable amount of time to just organize my studies, deciding what to study, what day, deciding how many problems I was going to do, and all the stuff associated with that. So TTP really saved a lot of time because all you have to do is open your computer and you don't even have to decide what you're going to do. You just start working through the program. So I can really strongly recommend TTP. Even if you have strong math fundamentals, TTP can really help you. Like I said, it helps with timing, it helps with teaching the tricks, it helps with teaching specific GMAT knowledge. They know what the GMAT makers like to ask. They know the tricks they throw in, and so that's really what you should be learning. And of course, if you're learning from a source that doesn't focus on that and rather just focuses on the mathematical foundations, then you're not going to score above 700. To score above 700, you have to know how the GMAT makers think so that you can use that to answer questions. So yeah, I really strongly recommend TTP. I would plan at least 200 hours for the program. So for me, that took around 4 months. If you know that you're going to take longer, then plan your time for that. But yes, plan at least 200 hours for TTP. And so that's all I wanted to say. I hope you guys have just as much success in your GMAT journey, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.